Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really digging into a topic that catches everyone's imagination, trying to sift through the noise around it.
Oh, yeah. It's one of those persistent mysteries, isn't it? Full of dramatic stories.
Exactly. We're charting a course right into the heart of, maritime legend, the Devil's Triangle.
The Bermuda Triangle, that name alone, just conjures up these images, right?
Mhm.
Vanishing planes, ghost ships. We're talking about that big patch of the Atlantic, roughly 500,000 square miles between Florida, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda.
Yeah, and the sources, they really back up the scale of the legend. Over 100 aircraft and ships supposedly lost there. But here's our mission for this deep dive. We're going past the really wild theories.
No aliens or lost cities today.
Right, none of that. We want to look at the key historical incidents that actually built the legend, and then, crucially, contrast those stories with what the science says and, maybe most importantly, the rational explanations.
That contrast is so important because the whole mystery, as we kind of frame it today, it's surprisingly modern. You mentioned the name, the Devil's Triangle.
Mm.
Well, that more famous phrase, the deadly Bermuda Triangle,
Mm.
it wasn't some ancient sailor's warning. It was basically uh, coined, or at least popularized, in 1964.
Really? That late?
Yeah, by a writer named Vincent Gaddis in Argosy magazine. And that article, it sort of lit the fuse. It pulled together all these separate incidents into one big, scary story.
Wow, so a catchy name goes a long way. Okay, let's look at the stories that were around before that name really took off. The foundational stuff, we have to go way, way back first, don't we? To Columbus.
Yeah, 1492, he sailed through that area. And his log, it notes a couple of weird things. First, his compass was apparently acting up, behaving erratically.
Okay, navigational issues right from the start.
And second, he reported seeing this great flame of fire, like a light, falling into the sea. Now, scientists are pretty sure that was just a meteor. Makes sense. But having those two things recorded together, compass trouble and strange phenomena, it kind of sets a precedent, psychologically speaking.
Okay, fast forward a few centuries. We get into these, ghost ship legends. The Ellen Austin in 1881 is a big one the sources mention. What's the story there?
It's got all the ingredients for a spooky tale. The Ellen Austin supposedly finds another ship just adrift near the triangle, totally empty, no crew.
Okay, creepy enough already.
So the captain decides to put a prize crew, some of his own men, onto the derelict ship to sail it alongside back to port.
Makes sense. Salvage, right?
Exactly. But then a storm hits,
Mm.
the ships get separated, and when Ellen Austin finds the other vessel again,
Well, let me guess.
the prize crew is gone.
Yeah.
Vanished. Just like the original crew. Now, it's worth noting that later research, particularly by journalists digging into it, suggested this story got, well, let's say, heavily embellished over the years.
Ah, okay. Still a great story, though. But then things get more serious, more documented in the 20th century. The USS Cyclops in 1918. That wasn't some old sailing ship.
No, absolutely not. This was a massive U.S. Navy collier, like a supply ship, one of the biggest in the fleet at the time. It had over 300 people on board 306, I think, plus a huge cargo of manganese ore.
And it just disappeared.
Completely. Sailing from the West Indies towards Baltimore, no SOS, no wreckage found, nothing. In peacetime.
Yeah.
For a ship that size with radio capability to just vanish. That was a major shock, a genuine mystery at the time.
Okay, but the incident that really cemented the Bermuda Triangle in, the modern public consciousness, that has to be Flight 19, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. December 1945. This is the cornerstone.
Yeah.
Because this wasn't just one ship. It was 5 U.S. Navy Venture torpedo bombers on a routine training flight out of Florida.
5 planes, military aircraft.
Right. 14 experienced airmen led by Lieutenant Charles Taylor. They took off. Everything normal. But about 2 hours into the flight, things went badly wrong. The sources really detail this.
What happened? What do the radio transmissions tell us?
Well, the transmissions show Taylor becoming increasingly confused and disoriented. He reported that his compasses, both of them, were malfunctioning. He wasn't sure where they were.
Both compasses on multiple planes.
Well, he reported his were out and seemed to assume the others might be too, or maybe there was conflicting information. He thought he might be over the Florida Keys, but he wasn't sure. The weather started getting rough. Visibility dropped.
So they were lost, essentially.
Pretty much. He radioed things like, "We cannot see land. Everything is wrong. Strange. We cannot be sure of any direction." They were flying blind, compasses unreliable, low on fuel. The awful conclusion is they eventually ran out of fuel and had to ditch in the ocean.
Just horrific. And then, to make it even worse, the rescue plane.
That's the final chilling piece of the Flight 19 story. A Martin Mariner flying boat, a big search and rescue plane with 13 crew, was sent out to look for them. It also disappeared, vanished off radar. Now, investigators later had a pretty strong suspicion about the Mariner. Those planes had a known issue with fuel vapor leaks. They were sometimes called flying gas tanks. The likely explanation is that it exploded in midair shortly after takeoff.
Okay, a technical reason, but for the public hearing this.
Exactly. For the public, it looked like the triangle had just swallowed not only the 5 bombers, but the rescue plane too. It cemented this idea of a uniquely dangerous, almost predatory area.
Okay, so those are the big stories that built the legend. Powerful stuff. Now let's pivot. What do the sources say about the scientific explanations? Moving away from curses and into, well, physics and environment. Theory 1 seems to be magnetism.
Right, the agonic line theory. This often gets exaggerated into some kind of magnetic vortex, but it's more mundane, though still significant for older navigation.
Explain the agonic line.
Okay, so you have true north, the geographic North Pole, and magnetic north, which is where your compass needle points. They aren't in the same place, and the difference between them is called magnetic variation or declination.
Uh-huh.
The agonic line is simply a line on the Earth's surface, where at a particular point in time, true north and magnetic north happen to align from that location. So the magnetic variation is 0.
Why is zero variation a problem? Wouldn't that make things easier?
You'd think so.
Yeah.
But compasses, especially older ones, and the navigational charts used with them, rely on knowing and correcting for that expected variation. When you hit the agonic line, where the variation suddenly becomes 0 or changes rapidly nearby, a standard compass can become sluggish or give confusing readings if you're not anticipating it.
Ah, so it's not a force pulling planes down. It's about making the primary navigation tool unreliable for pilots or sailors who aren't accounting for it properly, leading to human error.
Precisely. Particularly before GPS and modern inertial navigation systems took over. It could definitely lead to significant navigational mistakes.
Okay, that makes sense. What about the second theory? Just the raw environment and weather.
Yeah, this is the big one. The sources emphasize that the area itself is just inherently hazardous. Forget mystery, think basic geography and meteorology.
How so?
Well, first, parts of the triangle, like around the Bahamas, are actually quite shallow. Lots of hidden reefs and shoals that ships can easily run aground on, especially if they're already off course or caught in bad weather.
Okay.
Second, it's located squarely in Hurricane Alley. This region experiences some of the most frequent and intense hurricanes on the planet. And even outside of hurricane season, sudden, violent thunderstorms are common.
Right. And water spouts, too?
Yes, water spouts, basically tornadoes on water, are also frequently sighted in the area. They can be incredibly destructive to smaller vessels and even pose a risk to aircraft. So you combine potential navigation issues with sudden storms, hurricanes, shallow waters. It's a recipe for disaster, no mystery required.
Okay, clear dangers. But then there's this third one, the methane hydrates theory. This one sounds almost sci-fi, but it's real science.
It is real science, yes. Methane hydrates are these ice-like deposits on the seabed, trapping huge amounts of methane gas. They're found in various parts of the world, including potentially near the edges of the triangle area.
And how could they sink a ship?
The theory is that if something destabilizes these hydrates, like an underwater tremor or temperature change, they can release massive amounts of methane gas bubbles very suddenly. This gas erupts towards the surface.
Okay.
Now think about buoyancy. A ship floats because the water underneath it is dense enough to support its weight. If that water suddenly becomes filled with gas bubbles, its density plummets dramatically.
Like trying to float in fizzy water.
Exactly like that. The water loses its buoyant force.
Yeah.
A ship sailing over such an eruption could, theoretically, lose lift almost instantly and just sink vertically very fast, possibly without even time for a distress call.
Wow, that is a terrifyingly plausible mechanism. So is that what happened to the Cyclops or others?
Well, here's the crucial caveat the sources always stress. The mechanism is scientifically possible, it happens. But there is currently no direct evidence linking any specific Bermuda Triangle disappearance to a methane hydrate eruption.
Ah, so it's a possible explanation in theory, but we haven't found proof it actually caused any of the famous incidents?
Correct. It remains a fascinating and frankly quite scary possibility, but not a confirmed cause for the historical losses we associate with the triangle.
Okay, so magnetism, rough weather, hidden dangers, maybe methane. But that brings us to what the sources suggest is the most likely overarching explanation, the one that most agencies like NOAA seem to support.
Right, and this is where we kind of pull back the curtain. The consensus view is that the Bermuda Triangle mystery is largely an urban legend, fueled by some very understandable factors.
An urban legend. After all those stories, how does that work?
It really comes down to two main things, according to the analysis. First, incredibly high traffic volume, and second, human psychology, how we perceive patterns.
Let's take the traffic first. Why is that so significant?
Just look at a map. The Bermuda Triangle isn't some remote forbidden zone. It sits right across major shipping lanes and flight paths connecting North America, Europe, and the Caribbean.
So it's busy, really busy.
Extremely busy. Thousands of ships and planes transit through there all the time. And statistically speaking, where you have more traffic, you're simply going to have more incidents, more accidents, more mechanical failures, more encounters with bad weather. It's just probability.
So the number of incidents might be higher, but not necessarily the rate of incidents compared to the traffic volume?
Exactly that. It's likely not proportionally more dangerous than any other stretch of ocean with similar traffic levels. It just sees more activity, therefore it sees more problems.
Okay, that makes statistical sense. But then why the enduring myth? Why does it feel so mysterious? That's the psychology part.
Yeah, and this is where things like the frequency illusion or the Bader-Meinhof effect come in. Once Gaddis's article and subsequent books popularized the idea of the deadly triangle,
People started looking for it.
precisely, you hear about the Bermuda Triangle mystery. Then, next time a plane goes missing anywhere near Florida or Bermuda, your brain flags it. Ah, see, the triangle.
Yeah.
You pay special attention to those incidents.
And you ignore similar incidents happening elsewhere.
Or you don't connect them in the same way. A ship sinks in the North Atlantic. It's a tragedy. A ship sinks between Florida and Bermuda. It becomes another data point confirming the legend. The media also plays a role, often highlighting the location when an incident occurs there, because the name itself draws attention.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, in a way. And didn't you mention earlier that some stories might have been stretched?
Yes, that's another factor.
Yeah.
Journalist Larry Kusha did a lot of work on this back in the 70s. He went back to original records for many famous triangle incidents.
And what did he find?
He found that many accounts had been significantly distorted or exaggerated over time. Details were changed, crucial context like severe weather was omitted, some stories might have even been partially fabricated to make them seem more mysterious than they really were.
Like the Ellen Austen, maybe.
That's often cited as a prime example where the legend likely outgrew the facts significantly. Makes for a better story, keeps the book selling.
So, high traffic explains the number of incidents, psychology explains why we focus on them, and maybe some exaggeration polished the legends. What's the final verdict from official bodies? Like NOAA, the Ocean Agency.
Their position is pretty clear and consistent. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration states flatly that there's no evidence that mysterious disappearances happen more frequently in the Bermuda Triangle than in any other large, heavily traveled area of the ocean.
No evidence.
None that they recognize. They attribute the incidents to the known physical and environmental factors we discussed, combined with the high traffic volume and the inevitable human error that comes with it.
And there is that study about dangerous waters.
Right. The sources mention a 2013 World Wildlife Fund study identifying the world's 10 most dangerous waters for shipping based on accident data. The Bermuda Triangle wasn't on the list.
Didn't even make the top 10?
Nope. Which strongly suggests that its reputation is based more on catchy branding and selective reporting than on objective comparative risk. The real mystery might just be why the name and the legend are so darn persistent.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping this up. We've gone from these genuinely chilling stories like Flight 19 and the Cyclops, looked at plausible science like the Agonic Line, bad weather, even those methane hydrate eruptions.
Which are theoretically possible but unproven for these cases.
Right, and landed on the much more, well, rational explanation. It's a very busy area, subject to confirmation bias and maybe a bit of myth-making. The danger is real weather, shoals, engine failure, but likely not uniquely mysterious.
That 1964 article gave it a name that stuck, creating a focus that perhaps wasn't statistically warranted when you compare it to other busy, hazardous seaways around the globe.
So here's the final thought for you, our listener. If the main thing that makes the Bermuda Triangle stand out is just that it got this really effective, scary nickname, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other busy shipping lanes or flight paths out there might have just as many accidents or environmental dangers, but nobody's bothered to call them the Cursed Channel or the Vortex of Vanishing?
Yeah, are there other potential Bermuda Triangles just waiting for a spooky name? Or maybe, what is the most statistically dangerous patch of ocean today that just flies under the radar because it lacks that legendary branding?
Something to think about next time you look at a world map. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.